Hey guys, today we're in the book of Genesis, chapter 27. Now, we've jumped a lot of years in between chapter 27 and 28, and we open up with what we think is Isaac's kind of death scene as we read it. But in reality, he'll continue to live for about 40 more years after this chapter. But it starts out when it says Isaac was old, his eyes were dim. He called his son Esau to come in. And he said, hey, go take your weapons, take your bow, take your quiver, and go to the field and hunt me out some prey and make some of that delicious soup. Notice in verse 4, it says, as I love. He wanted Esau to go and to bring him a bowl of meat, a stew, of something that he loves, something from the field. And he said, after you do that, then I may bless you before I die. Now, if you remember, Isaac has already been told by God. God has already told Rebekah that the younger will serve the older. God is going to bless the younger, Jacob. But here we see Isaac not doing what God wanted. He wanted to bless his older son, Esau. But now in verse 5, we see Rebekah was listening when Isaac spoke to his son Esau. In the Hebrew, it gives us the idea that she didn't just happen to overhear, but she was spying on them, right? So she saw Esau come in to her husband, and now she's spying and she's trying to listen what's happening. And Rebekah hears this and says, there's no way that he's going to bless Esau. And so she calls her son Jacob, who has spent probably more time with her, probably her favorite child. And she tells him, obey my voice. Notice that verse 8, obey my voice. Don't listen to God. Don't listen to what God has already said that you're going to be blessed, but listen to me. I know how to get you this blessing that you need. And so Rebekah tells Jacob to go and to get 2 goats and to bring them in. And notice this in verse 9, and I will prepare for him delicious food that he loves. Okay. So verse 4, he loves the wild game. Verse 9, he loves the 2 goats, tame meat. Okay. This is going to make more sense when we come to the end. Just notice these words. Verse 11, but Jacob said to Rebekah, his mother, behold, my brother Esau is a hairy man. I'm a smooth man. Jacob, if you remember, his name means trickster, right? A heel grabber. And so here he's already thinking about this deceiving process and how he's going to get by that. And he says, hey, if dad's kind of blind, so he's going to want to touch me and feel me. And I don't feel like my brother. I'm not hairy. And his mom had already thought this out. And so they end up wrapping goat hair around his neck and around his arms. Well, for one, a side note, just tells you how hairy his brother really was, right? Super hairy. But he does this. And so now just notice here briefly in this story, Esau is not doing what God wanted. I'm sorry, Isaac is not doing what God wanted. Esau is not doing what God had wanted. He's not a spiritual man. He doesn't care about God. Rebekah is not doing what God wanted. And now Jacob is not doing what God has wanted. All 4 characters of this story are not trusting in God. They're trusting in themselves, in their ways to make what they want to happen. Okay. That's important to understand this. Then what happens? Jacob comes in with his stew and he says, here I am, Dad. And his dad says, who are you? And he says, I'm your son Esau. He's a liar, right? Jacob is lying. He's deceiving his father. And his father's like, hey, your voice sounds like Jacob, but your touch feels like Esau. And then we see in verse 20, he says, because the Lord your God granted me success. Jacob blames God or brings God into this lie, right? He said, how did you hunt an animal so quick? Because God granted me success. So now we have Jacob, who the promise is supposed to be going to, who is now lying and bringing God into the lie. So everybody here is just not acting right. They're acting totally wicked and only care about themselves. Verse 24, he said, "Are you really my son Esau?" Even Isaac was blind. It's just like, this is not right. But he knew that Jacob would not lie to him, right? Jacob is his other son. And so he keeps asking, "Hey, are you sure? Are you sure?" "Yeah, absolutely." Just lying and lying and lying. And notice this in verse 25, it says, "So he brought it near to him and he ate, and he brought him wine and drink." Notice this, that Isaac ate the meal that Rebekah cooked of 2 goats. He ate it. He did not know the difference between 2 goats and wild game. I've been telling you that it says he loves it, he loves it, he loves it. Let me point this out to you. Isaac did not love wild game. He could care less. Food is food. He did care about Esau. He wanted what he wanted. He wanted Esau to be the number 1 child. So it wasn't about getting a game and having fresh wild game meal. It was about him going out and, excuse me. It was him about going out, getting the kill, coming in, being the man, and providing for his family. Had nothing to do with taste, all about pride and all about envy. But the story goes on. His father Isaac said to him, "Come near to me, and I will bless you." And we see that Isaac blesses him, and we see the blessing here. And it says that they will be, God will give you the dew of heaven, the fatness of earth. That means bountiful, and bountiful of water, bountiful of food. But notice the very end: "Cursed be to everyone who curses you, and blessed be everyone who blesses you." When we read this, we think, "Oh no, Isaac didn't know, he blessed the wrong person." But remember what God said all the way back in chapter 25. God gives the blessing, not Jacob. Before they were born, God said the older will serve the younger. The blessing has already been given out. So Isaac did not bless Jacob. God blessed Jacob before they were ever born. Okay. So yes, he did physically bless him on earth, but that doesn't mean that God has to do whatever Isaac blesses, right? God's power and sovereignty is over all. Verse 32, it says, "His father Isaac said to him, 'Who are you?' And his son, his firstborn Esau." So now Jacob has left. Esau comes in and he says, "Who are you?" And he says, "I'm Esau." He said, "You were just here. I just ate your game." And Esau was like, "No, I wasn't." And then we see verse 33, Isaac trembled very violently. Isaac knew that he'd been tricked. Isaac knew something had gone wrong. And it says that he ate it all, once again saying that he ate all the food. He didn't care about wild game or not. Verse 34, "Even Jacob, exceedingly great with a bitter cry, said to his father, 'Bless me.'" This is the strongest description in the Hebrew that says how mad and how crazy that Esau went. He was outraged that his brother had tricked him again. And he even tells his dad, "Bless me, go on and bless me. Even though you blessed your brother, bless me." And he could not. And notice what he says in verse 36. Esau said, "For he has cheated me these 2 times. If you remember the story, he did not cheat Esau the first time. Esau gave his right away for a bowl of soup. He did not care about this blessing because it was many years ago. But now that his dad is getting older and getting closer to death, now he cares about not the spiritual blessing, but the material blessing. He wanted 2/3 of the estate. He wanted the gold, the silver. He wanted the herds. He wanted all of the things. He didn't care about the spiritual. He just wanted the material. And so he says, "Oh, he tricked me twice." No, Esau gave once away. Jacob tricked him the second time. But notice verse 37. Isaac answered and said to Esau, "Behold, I have made him lord over you." No, Isaac did not make him. God made him Lord over you. Remember, before they were born, God blessed Jacob, not Esau. And then we can see the blessing. When you read it, it seems like a curse, but we will find out that it's actually a blessing. And we see that he blesses or curses Esau. And he says, behold, away from the fatness of the earth you shall be, away from the dew. He's not going to have an easy life, but by the sword you will live. We're going to see later on as we continue to read, Esau does very well. He becomes a nation. He becomes a great people. He just does not have the Abrahamic covenant blessing that is with him, but he will have to work for that blessing. It will come by the sword, and eventually one day he will break his yoke from Jacob. One day Esau will come over Jacob, and we will see that as we continue to read. Now, Esau hated Jacob. You can imagine, right? Esau hated Jacob because of his pride and his envy. And then he hated him so much, he thought, I'm going to kill my brother Jacob when my father dies. And so what happens, his mother doesn't want Jacob to die. And so she thinks, hey, you got to get away from here, right? You've got to move on. So she tells him to go to Laban, my brother, in Haran, which is Ur of Chaldeans, Babylon, the same place that Rebekah came from, right? You got to go back to your uncle. It was Rebekah's brother, his uncle, and stay there. It says for a while. Other translation says for a few days. But as we continue to read, we'll learn that Jacob stays there for over 20 years. Rebekah will never see her son Jacob again. And so she goes away. And so now, verse 46, Rebekah said to Isaac, I loathe the Hittite women's. Please send Jacob away. Do not let him marry a Hittite woman. And so that's kind of where we end. But remember what I said at the beginning, that all of the characters of this story have been doing bad. They were not doing what God wanted them to do, not believing in what God said, but doing their own things. And now at the end, we can see that all of the people here lost in this story. Isaac didn't trust God, so he loses. Esau didn't trust, he loses. Rebekah didn't trust, she's going to lose her son. And Jacob loses in this battle, and we will see what will come to happen in a few chapters. And so all of these people, without working in God's covenant, in God's story, and doing their own, they all lose and all come into sin. So you'd ask yourself, where is Jesus in this Bible, in this story? Well, if you think about Jesus walking on the earth, one of the 12 disciples was Judas, a man who was not saved and a man that he pulled close to him the whole while and to the very end. God's sovereign plan will happen no matter what man does. God is above everything, and God's sovereignty is most powerful. So no matter what man and woman does, God's plan will always go forth. Hope that makes sense, and we will see you tomorrow in chapter 28. God bless.